Yeah. Okay, grab your Bible, turn to Genesis chapter 2. That's where we're going to be tonight. Have y'all enjoyed the love and dating and this whole series? Has it been good? Have y'all learned a lot? Yeah? Y'all learned a lot? Guys, y'all learned a lot about this? Well, tonight's the last lesson, okay? And we're going to talk about dating. All right? So I know you're excited about that. But before we jump into it, I'm just kind of curious. I just want to know, for my own personal benefit, how many of you guys have ever dated? Had a boyfriend, have a girlfriend? Okay? Okay, awesome. How many of you guys have ever been broken up with before? Ooh, how was that? Fun? Bad? Did you do the whole thing where you, give them their stuff back? You, take it to them? Did you put it out in front of the yard and light it on fire for them? Or is that just me? That's for confessional. Yeah, you got to listen to that. Okay, how many of you have ever broken up with someone? That's hard too, isn't it, man? You feel awful, right? It's painful. It's not a fun thing to do. Okay, well, tonight we're going to talk about this whole idea of dating. Because, guys, God wants you to find a spouse, okay? It's not that he doesn't want you to find a spouse, to find a mate. He wants that for you, all right? But I think we've gone about it a really hard and painful way, trying to find that person, and we call it dating. Because it can be hard, it can be difficult, it can be tough, especially when you get broken up with or when you have to break up with somebody. It's not fun, all right? It's not because God doesn't want you to find a mate, a spouse. I think it's because we need a better way to do it. We need something besides dating. And so that's what we're gonna talk about tonight. But before we do, I thought I'd share with you one of my dating stories. It was actually my very first date, okay? First time I ever took a girl out, but my mom actually took us out because I couldn't drive. And she had a 1991 Safari Astro minivan, you know what I'm talking about, with the big sliding door, the thing was huge. And that's what she drove. Well, it was homecoming, my 7th grade year, all right? And I had Jabot jeans. I had my Jabot jeans and my matching Jabot shirt. And I looked hot, all right? I'm not even playing. I looked good, okay? So I pick up this girl. Her name was Amanda, and I was short. I was 4'0". And she was even shorter. She was a little gymnast. She could do all these flips and stuff. And so I pick up Amanda at her house, and I was going to take her to this really, really nice restaurant, right? 'Cause it's a date. So I took her to Bennigan's, and I was really nervous, all right? Really scared because I didn't know how to treat a girl. I mean, this was all new territory to me. So we get to Bennigan's, right? And my mom drops us off, slides the door open, and we get out, and I was like, "Thanks, Mom," and she kind of drives off. Well, I opened the door for her, and we walk into Bennigan's, and as soon as I walked in, I got really nervous. Everybody in the restaurant, I felt just turned and looked at us, and we're both tiny, and I just got scared. I don't know what happened. I freaked out. So my first instinct was, "Mom." So I turned around, and I chased my mom down. She was already leaving. She was halfway to the parking lot. So I run, I get her, and I was like, "Mom, will you eat dinner with us? I'm really nervous and scared." So my first date was me, Amanda, and my mom at Bennigan's because I was so scared I didn't want to eat there by myself. It ended up being a great date. We went to the dance. We danced a couple times, way out there a few times. And I took her home, dropped her off, and I had a really good time. But that was my first dating experience. And I wanted you guys kind of in your groups, if you've ever, guys, if you've ever taken a girl to a dance, or girls, if you've ever been, taken to a dance by a guy and he gave you a flower and everything, I wanted you to share those stories in your groups for a little bit because I'm sure there's some really, really funny ones. So talk about that in your group, and then we'll get back together. All right. Hopefully you got your good stories in. Some good ones. Swing your chairs around, and let's look at Genesis chapter 2, okay? We're going to take a look at the first couple, all right? The first couple, first man and woman, how they met, how they got together, how all that happened, because the whole story, it's in Genesis chapter 2, all right? So, Genesis chapter 2, we're going to start in verse 18, all right? God's making the world, he's creating everything. Let's see what happens. Verse 18, chapter 2. Then the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone." Guys, amen, right? We got to have somebody to do the laundry, do the dishes, stuff like that. I'm kidding. Totally kidding. I know. "I will make him a helper fit for him." So out of the ground the Lord formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. The man gave names to all the livestock, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam, there was not found a helper fit for him. Verse 21. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept, he took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman, and brought her to the man. Then the man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked, and were not ashamed." Okay, so Adam's alone. He doesn't have anybody. He's just kind of sitting around. And then God goes, you know what? This is the first time God says, this isn't good. All through his creation, when he makes the earth, when he makes the stars, the planets, everything, he said, this is good, this is good, this is good. And then he looks down at Adam sitting all by himself. And God goes, it's not good for Adam to be alone. I'm going to make him a helper. So then he takes all the animals and he lines them up. And Adam's like, elephant, hippopotamus. I don't know where he came up with these names, but he came up with them. And he names all these animals. And he gets through all the animals, and God goes, no, none of those are going to do. And Adam probably goes, whew, thank goodness. I wouldn't want none of those to be my helper. And so he knocks Adam out, right? He causes him to go to sleep. And then he takes one of his ribs, and then he seals it back up. And then with that rib, he creates woman. And so Adam, he's probably asleep, right? And he wakes up. He just seen all those animals, and he wipes his eyes off, and then, bam, there she is, right? There's Eve. And listen to what he does. This is what he says. This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. What we just read right there is the first recorded words of any human. And it's a poem. It's a poem about how beautiful a woman is. The first thing we ever have written down about a man saying, and it's about the beauty of a woman. And it's poetry. And so Adam sees Eve and he starts singing. It's kind of like a musical. He just busts out in song, right? He starts singing like High School Musical. And then God, you know in a wedding how the father brings the bride down to the front and the groom's up there. Sometimes they cry. I've seen that before. They bring him down there and the pastor goes, who brings so-and-so to be united with so-and-so? And then the father says, her mother and I, or whatever. Well, God acted as the father in that wedding. He brought Eve to Adam, and the two were married. Isn't that cute? Isn't that sweet? There's our first couple. It was a little easy for them, right? They didn't have any other options. They didn't have to date. They didn't have to do all that stuff. I mean, it was Eve or nothing, right? It was Adam or nothing. It's a little harder for us. There's more options. There's more people. We're like, well, who am I supposed to marry? Who am I supposed to be with? And so I wanted to talk to you guys about a good way, a less painful way to kind of help us find out who that person is. And there's 3 different ways that historically people have looked for a spouse or for a wife. Okay, so we're going to walk through these real 3, and then we're going to talk about the third one, okay? So the first one, and if you have your paper, flip it over, and on the back, you can write these out. Here's the first one. Get real excited about it. The first option to finding a spouse is prearranged marriage. Awesome, huh? You guys up for that? Prearranged marriage. That's a prearranged marriage right there. It's pretty funny, huh? Here's what happens in a prearranged marriage, okay? The mom and the dad of both the girl and the boy decide, usually from an early age, okay, when our kids get older, we're going to have them get married, right? And that's a prearranged marriage. And you guys are like, weird. But other parts of the world, that's not weird at all. It happens all the time. In the Bible, this happens all the time. Prearranged marriages happen all throughout the Bible. We're just not very used to it because we don't do it over here in the United States. But I've decided to help you guys out. So what I did while we were setting out chairs is I put numbers under each chair. And if you look under your chair, it's going to match somebody else's number in the room. And if y'all want, I can do the wedding right here after Crash. It's no big deal. I'm totally kidding. There are no numbers under your chair. These guys over here are like, what? You guys are desperate, man. Totally kidding. We're not gonna do prearranged marriages here at Crash. No, I'm not gonna do that. Y'all think that's weird? Some of the guys in the room are like, man, that's not a bad idea. Because I have no game. I'm never going to get a girl. If I do a prearranged marriage, I'm guaranteed to have a wife. But we're not going to do prearranged marriages. That's an option. It happens a lot all over the world, but just we don't do that here in the United States. What we do is the second one, and the second one is dating. All right, and we've got our guy up here, and he's all ready. That's actually me on my first date. Totally kidding. Right, and he's about to go pick up his girl, and here's how dating works, okay? And it's kind of confusing because we say the word dating, but it's really kind of fuzzy because are we going on dates? Are we official? Can I change my Facebook status? Can I change my MySpace status? Like, dating's just this real big, broad term that talks about all kinds of stuff, and it's really kind of confusing. But I'll try to define it real fast. Okay, here's what happens. Guys, you're at lunch, all right? You're at Briar Hill or wherever you go to school, and you're eating your oodles and noodles, right? You're just chowing down on your lunch. They're really, really good. And then this girl walks by, okay? And she catches your attention. You go, wow, who's that? And then all of a sudden, you forget how tasty your oodles and noodles are, and all you can think about is this girl, right? She's got your attention. You can't even concentrate, all right? Because this girl has your attention. So, you've got some options, right? You've got to let this girl know that you're interested in her. And you've got a lot of different ways you can do that. You can phone a friend. You can pull that one out. You can text her, which is really lame. Guys, don't ever do that. That's just pathetic, okay? Don't ever text a girl that you're interested in her. You can do the old-fashioned thing where you call her. You can. There's all kinds of options. But basically, you want to try to let the girl know that you're interested in her, right? That you like her a little bit. And then, if she likes you back, then you start hanging out or do whatever. You go to movies together. But basically, you're just trying to get to know each other, right? Trying to figure out, you're talking. Do I like this person? Do I not like this person? And then it's going to end in one of two ways, okay? You're going to date for a while. 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. I don't know how long. I don't know, a year, whatever. You're going to date for a while. And then here's what's going to happen, okay? Eventually, either one of the other person in the dating thing is going to stop liking the other person, and they're going to have to break up. It's not going to be very fun. Or there's a really, really, really slim chance that both people, after all this time, especially in middle school, that's forever. That's like 10 years. You guys date that long, 10 years, and then you finally graduate high school and you move out of your parents' house and you're like, hey, let's get married. The odds of that are pretty slim. So what's probably going to happen if you're dating? Probably going to break up, right? And is that going to be fun? No, it's not going to be fun at all. Okay? Here's the bad thing about dating. I'm just going to throw it out there. Dating, especially at your age, starting at your age, prepares you just as much for divorce as it does for marriage. Because instead of preparing you for one long relationship, it prepares you to go through a series of relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship. And each time there's a breakup or each time there's a split up, something happens to your heart. It either gets a little bit harder, or it's almost like you kind of gave part of your heart away to this other person, and now it's over. Now it's done. And usually if there was a friendship there before, the friendship is usually gone too. And that's what happens in dating. And then you move to the next person. You date for them for a while, and then that ends. And then your heart gets a little bit more hardened. Or you feel like you give a little bit more of your heart away. And then one day, God's going to bring you that person that you want to marry, and you're going to marry them, and it's going to be awesome. But unlike in a dating relationship, in marriage, there's no breakup. Like, if you start to not get along, you can't just be like, oh, I'll just break up with them like I did while I was dating. That doesn't work in marriage. You have to work through that, and it's difficult and it's hard, but it's worth it. But when you date and date and date and date and date, you just get in your mindset, well, if it starts to not work out, I'll just end it, and we'll just break up. And if you spend your whole life doing that, and then one day you get married, you're not going to know how to handle things whenever it gets a little weird, or if maybe your feelings kind of change a little bit, because marriage is for life. Marriage is forever. And that's why dating is painful, and that's why dating can be hard, and that's why dating can be difficult. And if your parents right now have like a no dating policy for you, you probably hate it. But trust me, later on down the road, you're going to thank them for it because it probably saved you from a lot of heartache. And it probably saved you from a lot of tears. So if you're upset with your parents about them not letting you date and all your friends can date and blah, 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 trust me, you'll thank them later for it. You may not like it now, but later on you're going to thank them for it. Okay? So there's option number 2, all right? Dating. Here's the third option that I want to give you, that I want to encourage you, all of you, to really think about and maybe to start using later on when your parents allow you to start dating or whenever you feel like you're ready, okay? The third option is called courting, all right? And now when you think of the word courting, you probably think of this picture, like this old, couple, like courting. You think of maids and, knights and stuff like that. But courting is really old-fashioned, but so is marriage. So there's nothing wrong with anything being old-fashioned. But I'm going to try to explain to you what courting is and why I think it's a much better idea. And I'm going to start with the guys, okay? Guys, here's what courting a girl looks like. Okay, on your paper, I want you to write this out. We've got this next slide up here. It says guys blank and blank. Here's what guys do in courting, okay? First thing, guys, in courting that you do is leave. All right? You'd be like, what? Let me read you what it says in Genesis chapter 2, okay? Genesis chapter 2, it says this about Adam. Therefore, a man shall, what? His mother and father? Leave his mother and father, and then what? Hold fast to his wife, okay? Guys, before you start thinking about dating a girl, you need to start thinking about getting a job, okay? Before you get a girlfriend, you need to get a job because it's the guy's responsibility to leave his mother and father and cling to his wife. That means supporting yourself. That means getting an apartment or trying to get out of your parents' house. That means getting a job. That means getting 2 jobs if you have to. Before you guys think about getting a girlfriend, think about, I need to get a job. I need to get some work. Because that's what God told Adam to do. He put him in the garden. He said, Adam, I've got a job for you. Here's what it is. I want you to take care of the garden. I want you to make the rest of the world look like this. I want you to cultivate this. So God gives Adam a job. Because, see, here's the deal. Girls want to know 2 things if they're going to be interested in you. They want to know, do you have a paycheck and do you have a plan? All right? Girls aren't impressed with how many levels your World of Warcraft character is at. All right? That doesn't impress them at all. They could care less about that. All right? They are like, whatever. They want to know, do you have a paycheck and do you have a plan? Because she's going to come alongside you and it's your job to support her. All right? And in dating, that means you pay for stuff. You pay for the meal. You pay for the movie. And it's not money that your parents gave you. It's your money. It's your job to leave. So quit thinking about girls and think about work. All right? Think about getting a job. I don't know what that looks like. I know at 14 you can start working, right? Before then, mow yards. If you have to mow yards, mow yards. But find some way. Focus all your attention that you've got on girls. Focus it on getting a job. That's the first thing that you guys need to do. And God takes this really seriously, okay? I want you to flip over. Look in the New Testament. Look at 1 Timothy chapter 5. I want you to see how seriously God takes the man's role to provide. And this involves leaving, okay? 1 Timothy chapter 5. And I want you to look at verse 8. Chapter 5, verse 8. Here we go. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, that would be your wife, that'd be your kids, anybody else living in your household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Worse than an unbeliever. So basically God's saying it's better off for you to be an unbeliever than to be a Christian, to be a guy who isn't working hard, trying to support and provide for his family. That's how serious God takes your role as the provider. And part of that involves leaving. So quit thinking about girls and thinking about work. All right? Think about getting a job. Think about getting out there. And I know you're not going to try to move out of your parents' house when you're in junior high, but get started. Start supporting yourself. All right? Start getting a paycheck. And quit focusing all your attention. Mow yards. Do whatever you got to do. Get a paper out. But start getting responsible. Quit playing so much Xbox. All right. Second thing, okay? Here's the second thing guys do. Oh, and I totally forgot. If you have any questions during the lesson, text them in, and we'll try to answer them after. Then go out. Don't answer it in the middle of the room, silly. All right. Second thing. Guys, leave and guys, initiate. All right? You know how to spell that? If you don't, it's up on the thing. Initiate. You know what that word means? What does it mean to initiate something? It means you start something, okay? Guys, once you've got a job, once you're responsible enough and you think you're ready, it's your job to initiate the relationship, okay? Girls don't like it when they have to do all the work. It's not set up that way. The guy is supposed to initiate the relationship. And a text message does not count as initiating a relationship, all right? It's your job to go to her and to express, hey, I like you, I'm interested in you. That's your job to initiate. It's not her job. Let me tell you how weird this is. And everybody knows this is weird. I'll tell you a story about a girl that tried to initiate something with me one time in high school. It's totally awkward, all right? Probably one of the weirdest things of my entire life. I'm a senior in high school, and I was really, really good friends with this girl, all right? And I thought that's all we were, but apparently we weren't. There was more to it than that. I'd never taken her out on a date. I mean, all the time we hung out was just at school and class together, okay? I'm walking out of school one day, and I drove a truck, and on my truck was a rose and a note. And I'm like, oh, man, some guy got the wrong car. That was my first thought. I was like, that poor dude wasted his money on, got the wrong car. So I walk over to it, I grab the rose, and I open up the note, and it says Matt. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I start reading it, and it says, I hope this isn't weird. And I was like, too late. It's really weird. So I read the rest of the note, and it was from this girl, and she told me how much she liked me and how she wanted to be with me, and she wanted me to be her boyfriend and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so weird. I'd never told this girl I'd liked her. I'd never done anything to give her any clue that I was interested in her. But she took the initiative and put this note and put this rose on my car, okay? And it was just awkward. Well, the next day, I just happened to get sick, and I didn't go to school. The story gets even better. So I'm at home, right, in my parents' house, and I'm watching Price is Right, because what else do you watch when you're sick and you're home from school? I'm watching The Price is Right, and my doorbell rings. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Who's coming over to the house in the middle of the day? And I'm in my, PJs. I got snot coming all down my nose because I was sick. I had, allergies. So I go to the door, and I open it up, and it's this girl, the same girl that left the note, and she's on my front porch. I didn't even know she knew where I lived. She's never been to my house. But she's standing there, and I was like, hey, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, you didn't come to school today, so I just came to check on you. And I was like, you came to what? She's like, well, you weren't at school, so I was just coming to check on you and make sure everything was okay. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. It was just really weird. And I was like, well, I'm sick, and so I stayed home from school today, and I didn't go. And she said, well, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just sick. Why are you here? And it just kind of ended like that. So I was just like, well, I'm going to get back to watching Price is Right, so I'll talk to you later. So I shut the door, and it's just, I don't know. I don't even know how she found my house. Anyway, the next day at school, I thought the story was over. It gets even better. The next day at school, I'm walking down the hall, just going to a class, and she pins me up against the locker. We're walking past each other. She pins me up against the locker. She goes, did you get my note? And I was like, yes. She goes, I need an answer. And I was like, no, I don't want to date you. And completely ruined our friendship. It was just awkward from that moment on. But she went out and did the initiation. And it's not the girl's job to initiate. Girls, you don't want some guy that you have to, go after and chase. You want the guy to come to you and to express interest in you. And that's how it works. Guys, you're the initiator, okay? You start it. Once you've left your mother and father, or once you've been responsible, or they feel like you're ready, and a girl, interests you, you make the initiation. And here's how it looks, okay? Here's how the start begins. And it's a little different than probably what you've heard of, but this is where courting comes into place. You notice the girl, right? Before you say anything to her, don't tell her that you like her. Don't tell her that you're interested in her. You just kind of observe her from a distance. Just watch how she acts. Watch how she is around her friends. And here's some questions that I'm going to give you that you need to ask about this girl, okay? Here's what you need to ask. Number 1, does she love Jesus? That's your first question. Because if she doesn't love Jesus, it's a no-go, all right? And you don't, date her and say, oh, well, when I date her, she'll become a Christian. It doesn't work that way, all right? No such thing, okay? First question, is she a Christian? Does she love Jesus? Number 2, is she modest, or does she fall out of all the clothes that she wears? Because you want to stay away from those girls. Is she modest? How does she dress? Because that tells you a lot about a girl, okay? Number 3, is she kind? Is she nice? Or is she crafty and catty? Catty, like think about a cat. Like, does she fight all the time? All right? Is she kind and nice, or is she catty? Here's another good thing. If she doesn't have very many girlfriends, meaning if she doesn't have very many friends that are girls, not a good idea, okay? Because I've met girls like that, and they're like, oh, I just don't get along with girls very well. I just get along with guys. Huge red flag. Because guess what? Later on down the road, if you get married to her, and none of her friends are girls, you're not going to be like, hey, have you hung out with John lately? Like, you're not going to say that to your wife. She's not going to go hang out with some dude that she's friends with. Like, girls need to have friends that are girls, okay? And a lot of that has to do with how kind and how nice they are. Number 4, will she follow your leadership? It's the guy's role in the relationship, in a marriage, to be the leader, to be the head of the house. Will she follow your leadership? This is also a question about yourself. This means, are you man enough and godly enough to lead a woman of her caliber? If she's a really, really godly woman, you better be a really, really godly guy, because you're going to have to lead her. All right, and then the last question, number 5, do you want, if you have daughters, if you get married someday, and you think about this, and you have kids, do you want your daughters to be like her? If you have girls, little girls one day, do you want them to act like she acts? So those are your questions, okay? So you spend time watching, observing for a while, and if you're still interested, she answers all these questions, here's what you do next. You don't tell her, you talk to her dad. Before you say anything to the girl, you talk to the dad first. Here's why. There's a couple reasons, all right? Some of you guys are like, heck no. I ain't talking to the dad. Exactly. That's why. Here's why you do this, okay? It'll tell you 2 things. You go to the dad first and you say, probably, you're really nervous, okay? If you talk to her dad, first of all, unless you really, really like this girl, you're not going to go talk to her dad. So that'll tell you right off the bat whether she's worth it or not. But if you like her, you're going to go talk to her dad and you're going to say, hey, I really like your daughter. We're not dating or anything, and I just wanted you to know that. But I'm interested in dating her, and I just wanted to earn your respect. Before I date her, I wanted to earn your respect, and I wanted to know whatever it is I have to do to earn your respect to be able to date your daughter. I mean, he could have you do all kinds of stuff. I don't know. Take a drug test, pee in a cup. I don't know what he's going to ask you to do. But whatever, here's what you do. If he asks you to do a whole bunch of stuff, okay, if he gives you a whole list, all right, of things to do, and you start doing those things, and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't worth it. That's going to save that girl's heart. Because instead of pulling her along and dating her and wooing her and telling her nice things and telling her that you love her and then breaking up with her and breaking her heart, it's going to keep you from doing that, because you're going to realize, man, I don't really like this girl as much as I thought I did, because I don't want to do all these things. But if you do all those things that the dad asks you to do, and you spend time with him and earn whatever respect it is that he wants, and you still like that girl, that's going to tell you that she's worth it. And you're going to, no matter what he asks you to do, you're going to do all those things because you like his daughter that much. And if you're saying, like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard of, I'm never going to do that. 2 things that I want to say to you. Number 1, either it's because you're afraid to do that, which makes you a coward and you're not ready to date. Or it's because you're shady. You're a shady guy and you've got some things to hide that you don't want her dad knowing about. And that's God's way of protecting her from you. Okay? But if this is a girl that you're really, really interested in, no matter what her dad asks you to do, you'd be willing to do it. Okay? So that's why you go to the dad first. It's to protect the girl's heart. All right? This is what courting looks like. It involves the girl's dad. Okay? So those are the 2 things the guys do. All right, girls, you ready for yours? I got 2 things. Okay? Flip it over. Ride these on the back. I'm going to try to hurry because we got a lot to talk about. Okay. First thing. In a marriage, in relationships, guys leave and girls are given. Okay? That's what happens at a wedding. Who walks her down the aisle? Her dad, right? Dads, fathers give their daughters in marriage. They give their daughters in dating. and it involves your dad. And here's the kicker for you guys. That means you have to be under your dad's authority. You have to respect his authority, and you have to submit to his authority. If it's rule not to date, you don't date. If it's his rule to do whatever, to not talk to guys, to not call guys, you submit to that. Because it's there for your protection, all right? Your dad is there to protect your heart from moron guys. They're going to break it, okay? That's what your dad is there for. Your dad is there to give you. And some of you may be saying, well, Matt, we don't really have that type of relationship. Shh, listen up. We don't really have that type of relationship. Like, we're not that close. I'd like to be that close with my dad, but we don't really talk about things like that. Two things. Number one, first, I'm sorry. Okay, it's not supposed to be that way. Your dad is there to protect you, to guard your heart, to cherish you, and to treat you right. And if he's not there, if you don't have that relationship, I'm sorry. It's not supposed to be that way. But here's the cool thing. This might be the very thing that brings you two together. Okay? Because if you go to your dad and you say, Dad, look, I've really had my heart broken by some guys. And it hurts. And I don't like it. Would you help protect me in this area? If a guy's ever interested in me, can I send him to you first? That way I don't get my feelings involved and get my emotions involved. And you can make him do whatever you want. I don't care. But can I do that? And if he wants to involve a gun, that's totally fine. And if anything, you and your dad can laugh about some of the stuff that he made him do. That could be really funny. But I'm sure if your dad loves you at all, he'd be willing to do this, okay? If you went to him and said, Dad, I really don't want to get my heart broken by guys. Will you help protect me? Will you help guard me? If a guy ever tells me that he likes me, can I give him your number and have him call you and take you out on a date first before he takes me out? Because I don't want to get my emotions involved. I don't want to get my feelings involved. And I don't want to get hurt. So that's the first thing, if your dad is in the house. But some of you may not have a dad present in the house. You may not live with your dad. You may live with your mom, and your dad's not even really physically present or around. To that, I would say this. I would love to do that for you. Blake Chilton would love to do that for you. Peter would love to do that for you. And we would have fun with it. Trust me. Trust me. If your dad's not around, if you want me, if you want Blake or any of the other pastors here to be that for you, we would love to. And if a guy ever says that he likes you, if you want to give him my number and say, hey, you got to call this guy first, I will meet with him. I promise you I will meet with him. And I know how to hide a body, so it'll be good, all right? It'll be real good. I got a boat. I'll dump him in Lake Louisville or something like that. So if you don't have a dad that's around, if you don't have a dad that's present, and you want some to protect you and to guard your heart, there's plenty of older godly men in the church that would love to do that for you. Just come ask us, all right? We'd be willing to, okay? So that's the first thing. Girls are given by their father. That's for protection. Here's the second thing. Guys initiate. Girls, you respond, okay? It's your job to respond. And I'm just going to be really honest, okay? A lot of girls respond way too easily, okay? A guy sends you a text message, you should look at that and laugh, all right? That is not a way to initiate a relationship with a girl, okay? He's got to make some effort. He's got to work for it. He's got to earn it. So don't respond so easily. Some of y'all, like you're at lunch and all your girls, you're giggling together and some guy just kind of gives you a look and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to marry him, okay? Way too easily, all right? You respond way too easily. Because here's the cool thing about courting. Courting makes the guy step up and be a man, all right? And that's what you want, right? You want a man, someone who's bold and who's strong and who's confident. You don't want some little sissy boy who'll just send you a text message and you go, okay, and then you do all the work, all right? But with courting, it makes the guy step up and makes the initiative, and then you respond to that initiative. And the first way that you respond, we talked about it just a second ago, is you say what? Before you can date me, you've got to talk to who? Talk to my dad, all right? Here's some questions that you can ask about a guy that might be interested in you, okay, while all this is going on. First one, does he love Jesus? And a good way to tell this about guys, is he humble? Okay? Is he a humble, teachable, respectable guy? Does he love Jesus? Number 2, do you want to help him and join in on his course of life? This is going to be later on for like marriage, but if it's a guy that just sits around and is lazy, that's not somebody you want to join alongside. You want somebody who's on a mission, who's got a plan, who's got a goal in life, okay? Third thing, is he tough enough to remain strong during hard times? Number 2 was, do you want to help him and join in his course of life? That's kind of like the whole question, where's he headed? Does he have a plan? Okay? Where's he headed? Number 3, is he tough enough to remain strong during hard times? Is he tough enough to remain strong during hard times? And number 4, this one's huge, okay? This involves how he treats you. Is he considerate and gentle with you? Any guy that you're afraid of, you should not date. If you're dating a guy and you're afraid of him, you need to break up with him. Because a guy that loves you will cherish you, and he will respect you, and he will treat you gently. He'll never yell at you. He'll never threaten you. Because that's what a coward does. A godly man never yells, never threatens a woman. Okay? So how does he treat you? Number 5 involves how you feel. Okay? How valuable are you to him? If you call, does he always answer? This is what I love about Blake Chilton, my boss. Anytime Sarah calls, it doesn't matter where we are. It doesn't matter if we're in a meeting. It doesn't matter if she calls. Gail, that's her middle name. He answers, okay? Because he values her. She's valuable to him, okay? That involves how you feel. Number 6, if you ever have sons, if you ever have little boys someday, do you want your boys to be like him? Same question kind of the guys ask about daughters. All right? So that's that. Okay, you've got some questions in your group that involve this. I want you to spend some time talking about that. And then if we have time at the end, we're going to answer some text messages, okay? So talk about your questions. All right, troops, let's answer some questions real fast. All right? Here we go. Let's get our first one up on the screen. What if the girl... Shh, guys. What if the girl says no after you ask her dad? No. Then you quit thinking about her. No, if the girl says no, you don't ever pressure her. If she says no, she says no. All right? I'm not telling you have to move on or whatever, but you don't ever pressure her. You don't ever try to convince her to say yes. First of all, that's pathetic. Second of all, you don't pressure a girl into liking her. If she says no, I don't want to date you, then you say, okay, you honor that and you respect that. All right? Next one. If you're not close, and go work out or something if she says no. Maybe that's what you need to do. Get a six-pack. If you're not close to your dad, would it be okay to have one of the pastors talk to the boy? That would be okay, but here's the deal, all right? God wants you and your dad to have this relationship, all right? That's the way it's meant to be. That's the way it's set up. And the only reason I would ask that you would ask one of us is if your dad is physically just not present. Because here's the cool thing about this. Doing this might bring you two together. It might build that relationship that you wanted. Okay? Because every girl deep down wants this relationship with their father. Okay? But sometimes it's not there. But doing this and going to your dad and saying, Dad, will you help protect me from guys, and will you help guard me from guys? Like, it might start that relationship that you've always wanted, okay? So, yes, it's okay, but try to start this with your dad first, all right? Try to start with your dad first. One more, last one. So is it bad if you go out with someone and you guys break up? No, it's not bad. It hurts, and it's painful, all right? But it's not bad. But here's what I would hope you guys would do. You would care more about that person and about their soul than about maybe some little feelings that you have for them. And you would say, you know what, I like you, but I like you so much, I like you more that I don't want to ever do anything that could possibly hurt you. So even though I like you a lot, I'm just going to hold that off for now, and I just want to be friends. I just want to enjoy our friendship. And then maybe later on down the road, when we're more ready and we're more mature, and we know how to handle emotions, we handle feelings, then we can date. And then you might not break up, and then you still have your friendship, okay? So it's not bad if you've dated someone and you broke up with them. You're not like, doomed or anything. But care about the person and say, you know what, I like you more. Let's just be friends. And let's not risk anything. Okay, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Let's just be friends. All right?